Looks like they're allergic to learning, huh? Karoline Leavitt isn't just dealing with the press. She's dismantling their narratives using nothing but pure common sense. In just a short time as Trump's press secretary, she has already proven that she won't go along with media spin. When reporters try to push their usual talking points, she fires back with hard facts that leave them scrambling for response. And today, we're diving into more moments where she completely shut down multiple reporters. You're going to enjoy every second of it. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more videos like this. Now, which White House official made the call to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night? Well, first off, let's set the record straight. Covering this White House is a privilege. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary, and no one has an automatic right to enter the Oval Office and question the President of the United States. That's an invitation that's granted, not a given. There are hundreds of media outlets on this campus, including many in this very room, who don't have the privilege of being in that press pool every day to question the president. We reserve the right to decide who gets that access. And let's be clear, every credentialed journalist, including the Associated Press, is here in this briefing room today. Exactly. This entire fiasco kicked off because the Associated Press refused to acknowledge the Gulf of America and insisted on using its old name, arguing that it had been called the Gulf of Mexico for over 400 years. They claimed other international organizations hadn't recognized the change either. That's modern-day independent journalism for you. But it didn't stop there. A CNN reporter jumped in with this follow-up. Isn't this retaliatory? The AP was barred because they refused to use the term Gulf of America and stuck with Gulf of Mexico per their standards. Does this set a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't adopt the language you prefer? And how does this align with the First Amendment commitment you spoke about? On day one, I made it crystal clear in my briefing if media outlets push falsehoods, we're going to hold them accountable. It's a fact that the body of water off the Louisiana coast is now called the Gulf of America. I don't understand why certain outlets refuse to acknowledge that, but that's what it is. The Secretary of the Interior officially designated it as such in the Geographical Identification Name Server, and even Apple and Google have recognized it. Most of the press in this room has already adopted the correct name. This administration believes in getting it right, not just for Americans, but for the world. The real reason they refuse? Because they're activists pretending to be journalists. After the White House revoked their access, AP's executive editor fired off a statement to the chief of staff, claiming, "This action was clearly meant to punish AP for the content of its reporting. The AP is ready to vigorously defend its constitutional rights and protest this attack on the public's access to independent news coverage of their government and elected officials." Give me a break. Gaslighting at its finest. No one is blocking public access to news. And let's be real, most people don't rely on AP for their information anymore, especially after how biased they've become. So please, drop the martyr act and get back to real journalism. Next up, a reporter who somehow doesn't realize that crossing the border illegally is a crime. ICE has arrested 3,500 people since President Trump returned to office. Can you clarify how many of them had criminal records versus those who were just here illegally? All of them. Because entering this country illegally means breaking our nation's laws, which makes them criminals as far as this administration is concerned. I know the previous administration didn't see it that way, but under this administration, the law is the law. This is a huge cultural shift in America, acknowledging that breaking immigration laws is, in fact, a crime. That's reality. This mindset is exactly why illegal border crossings have dropped by 90% since Trump's return to office, according to the New York Post. But don't expect the mainstream media to give him any credit. Funny, isn't it? When you actually enforce the law and make it clear that illegal crossings won't be tolerated, suddenly, the flood turns into a trickle. But it's not just reporters who feel Karoline's fire. She also blasted the left over their political theatrics during the anti-Doge protests. Some furious elected Democrats lost their minds over Doge. Congresswoman Monica McGiver declared, "We are at war." Ilhan Omar warned, "Somebody could actually get killed." And Chris Van Hollen shouted, "We need to fight this in Congress. We need to fight this in the streets. Oh, really? And let me just point out, if Republican leaders had said anything even remotely close to this, there would be absolute outrage in this room. But when Democrats incite violence, silence. Their over-the-top reactions make it clear they don't even understand what's happening. Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make government more efficient. He campaigned nationwide alongside Elon Musk, promising that Elon would lead the Department of Government Efficiency. Their mission? To audit every dollar and make sure taxpayers' money isn't wasted. That's all that's happening here. And yet, Democrat officials are calling for riots in the streets, which is dangerous and completely unacceptable. They should be held accountable. Exactly. You saw the endless meltdowns from lawmakers on the left. And let's be honest, if these statements had come from the right, people would be demanding prison sentences. Drop a like if you agree that double standards exist. Oh, and speaking of media bias, Politico just got exposed in a huge way by Karoline. USAID has been in the spotlight over taxpayer-funded programs. Now, reports show media outlets like Politico were receiving funding. Does the president have any comment on that? Karoline didn't hesitate. Before stepping into this briefing, I was made aware that USAID had been funneling taxpayer money to media outlets, including Politico, who has a seat in this room. Over $8 million in tax dollars went towards subsidizing Politico's premium subscriptions on the taxpayer's dime. That ends now. The Doge team is shutting it down as we speak. The truth? Politico didn't directly receive $8.2 million. Instead, government agencies used taxpayer funds to pay for thousands of premium subscriptions to their Pro plan, which costs between $122 and $15,000 per year. Do the math. How many government employees had to sign up for that bill to exceed $8 million? To wrap things up, Karoline literally schooled the press when chaos broke out, reporters shouting over each other like children. Guys, let's act like adults. They are giving you their time. You don't need to scream at them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you handle the mainstream media.